So welcome. This is the fourth episode of Obiettivocina Talk. In this episode, I am with Daisy. Good morning, Daisy, or good afternoon in China.
Good morning, Italy.
Thank you. And we have an host today that is Roberto Luzzi Crivellini. He's an international business lawyer specialized in China, and also is the co-founder of Legalmondo, that is a legal platform to provide legal assistance in more than 45 countries in the world. Hello, Roberto.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for your participation. Today we invited Roberto because last time with Daisy we spoke a little bit about IP protection. This is a very sensitive matter, and so it is interesting to go deeper in this subject, and Roberto is an expert in that. So my first question to Roberto, if he can briefly present himself, and my first question is from this point of view, from IP protection, which is the main risk for Italian companies or foreign companies regarding making business in China, and which are the most frequent mistakes?
Well, thank you, Pier Antonio. I would say, well, yes, I've been working in China and with China for over 12 years now. And if we have to tackle this issue, I would say that the main problems or mistakes arise mostly from not registering your brand, your trademark in China. And most companies think that this is something that they should consider only if and when they have a China strategy and they actually enter into the Chinese market. But I would say that this should be high on your list, even if you do not have a plan to enter into the China market anytime soon, as the main problem is that if someone else registers your trademark in China, they will be considered the legitimate owner of that trademark, and they will be able to use it without your permission. And this is something that you definitely don't want to happen. So this would be the first mistake, not to have a plan to protect your IP in China today, not tomorrow if you will be in China. And the second thing is, if you decide to do it, and when the time comes to do it, then to ask your agent or distributor or any person you know in China to take care of that, as this is a very delicate process, and you definitely don't want to have the registration handled by a person who is either not competent or, as it frequently happens, registers the trademarks on your behalf but in their name. So you end up with your trademark registered in the name of someone else, which often can become a problem.
Yes, we saw many times this problem and this fear from Italian companies planning to enter to China. So it is a very urgent matter many times. There is a famous saying in marketing that say that brands are in the mind of the customers. So we know that mind of Chinese from many aspects is different from the mind of Western people. So I would like to ask to Daisy, as far as regard brands, are there some quick suggestions that you can give to foreign companies, and especially Italian companies that want to enter in China?
I think you are mainly referring to the trademark. I mean, the logo, the slogan, or the Chinese translation of the brand.
The brand, yes.
I think we always need to keep in mind that the brand is the essential role of the brand is for the communication, for people to remember you. Actually, unless you are already very well known in China, most people from the brand itself without further indication will not distinguish that this is a foreign brand or a local brand. But in most cases, we recommend that to have a proper Chinese name, Chinese translation for your brand, because in our language, we use characters. And to have a Chinese name, is supposed to help you to be relatively easier to be remembered. We just take the example of the coffee chains in China, Starbucks and Costa. The Chinese translation of Starbucks is far more popular than Costa. And actually, they are also more successful than Costa. But translation itself, how to translate a brand, is another very big topic, like transliteration or paraphrase. It depends on your business. It's to B or to C, your product, your history, and many aspects needs to be considered. Anyway, for a new brand not known here, and you feel like to deliver the message to your customer, I think apart from a Chinese translation, it is better to have a kind of a slogan or tagline reminding people about your product, your service, or your region, your history, anything you want to, that you think is essential to deliver to the customers in order to strengthen the communication effectiveness.
Roberto, you mentioned the risk of foreign companies that their brand is registered in China, but somebody else, and then it's difficult to recover it. Which is the situation now of IP protection in China?
Well, it's getting better and better. If you look at the situation 15 or 20 years ago, I think China has done a lot of work there, but it's still a big issue. Counterfeiting is still a major problem in China. So it should be high on the list of to-dos on the China market, on the China strategy for any foreign company which enters the China market or wants to prevent that someone uses the trademark on the China market. And to do that, I would say, of course, as Daisy just mentioned, you should consider registering your trademark and to evaluate whether you want to have it registered in Chinese characters, which can be or should be a decision that is done together with the competent Chinese advisors, especially if you're considering a transliteration of your trademark. You don't want to pick
sounds ridiculous or strange.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's a big point. I would say that it's also important to consider that your trademark can and should be registered in most cases also at the customs. So this can enable the owner to be notified of possible counterfeit products which are seized at the customs and to take the necessary actions. So this is very important to prevent counterfeit products to be exported from China to other countries. And then expressly mention in your contracts with your Chinese counterparts, whether they are agents or distributors or licensees and so on and so forth, that they are not allowed to register your trademarks or trademarks which are similar to the trademarks you own internationally and in China, or the Chinese transliteration of such trademarks. And this is very important because if there is an infringement of this obligation in the contract, then it's easier for the owner of the trademark to fight it and to seek annulment or cancellation of the trademark in China. Otherwise, it can be very complicated.
Continuing to speak about brands, many customers or prospects ask me sometimes, which is the process to register brand in China, and which is more or less which could be the cost?
Well, yeah, well, there are mainly two ways. In case you already have an international registration, so you can do an extension of your trademark through the system of the World Intellectual Property Organization, or, which is what I recommend, you can do a direct filing at the China Trademark Office in China, and so seek direct filing of your trademark there. And I say I recommend this because it tends to be faster, and the two systems are not exactly the same. Especially you need to make sure that your trademark is registered not only in the right classes, but also in the right subclasses, and there are quite many. So if you do your own direct filing in China, you can pick, together with your advisors, make sure you pick the right subclasses, and your trademark is protected exactly where you want it to be protected. As long as the costs, they can vary depending on how many trademarks filing you make, how many classes you want to choose, and for protection, let's say that they span from a few €100 to a few thousand euros. It's not a big investment in terms of money, but it's very relevant to protect your goodwill in China. So this is a key moment in your China strategy, and it's very important that this activity is taken with very specialized and competent advisors. A mistake I see quite often is to look for the cheap agent, especially if recommended by your China counterparty, and to go with whatever agency who can do the filing for you, and this is generally not a good idea.
And Roberto, in case a company found that his brand has been registered in China by somebody else, what do you suggest to do?
Well, let's say that first of all, you have a problem, because China is a first to file system, meaning that there is a presumption that the person who registers the trademark is the legitimate owner of that trademark. So the only way to take it back is to seek a cancellation on the basis of the fact that the filing was made in bad faith. That is, the person or the company who filed for the trademark protection knew at the time of filing that the trademark was used before by another company, and is trying to take an unlawful advantage from this filing. This is very difficult to obtain unless you have a contract that, for instance, prevents your counterparty to do that, or you have a contract anyway, and you can show that your distributor or agent was aware, of course, that the trademark was used by the legitimate owner before. So it's a very narrow road that you have there. The second possibility is to prove that the trademark was indeed filed by someone else, but was not used by this person or company. So after 3 years, it is possible to seek cancellation for non-use. So those are mostly mainly the two avenues that are available. You have to seek legal advice to do that. And if you're not successful in doing that, the last resort would be to contact the owner of the trademark and try to negotiate a possible assignment of the trademark to your company. And this is in some cases possible. In some others, the owner of the trademark has different ideas, and then you're stuck and you really have a problem. I mean, not only, this is not an issue only for small, medium companies. I often quote Michael Jordan, who had went through a very long legal war against a Chinese company who registered the Chinese translation of the international trademark Air Jordan. So it's a problem that even very big multinational corporations have had in the recent past.
Yeah, sure. We have seen it also for some small, medium companies. This happen, unfortunately, quite frequently, more frequently than somebody can imagine. IP, as Daisy was mentioning at the beginning, regards not only log brands, but also patents. And sometimes this is the main concern of small, medium enterprises to lose in some way their secrets in China if they export and they start business with their product, technological product, especially. At this regard, patent, what do you suggest, Roberto? Should company register them, or there are some other way to protect these kind of secrets?
Yeah, well, this is a very good question, Pier Antonio. When you patent in China, the info, like in other any other jurisdiction worldwide, becomes public. So it's very important that you make such decision, taking into account, taking into consideration if and how that technology which you are patenting in China will be used or not in China. So if you invest in a patent, you should be ready also to invest in the activities which are needed to defend the patent in the future, in case of need. So litigation, for instance, which can be complicated, can be very time consuming and very expensive. So I think it's generally the answer would be yes, but then we should consider what is step 2. How do you plan to enforce your patent in China? If you are not ready to do that, and if you do not have a partner, for instance, in China, who can be your watchdog on the market, then the alternative would be to protect your technology as a trade secret or as a know-how. So you keep it confidential. You make sure that in your license agreements or distribution agreements or technology transfer agreements, at least the core of the technology stays protected, stays confidential, and you draft in your contracts clauses to make sure that the counterparty abides by this obligation. So they are two different ways, and I would suggest that this decision is made right at the onset of the China strategy. And then the decision whether to patent or not is considered both discussing with legal advisors and with IP agents.
Absolutely, is a very delicate and complex matter, patent. So the best advice is don't manage it by yourself, but you need a professional
legal hands.
Yes, absolutely. In the note of this episode, however, we will put the reference about Roberto. If somebody is interested in this kind of subject, you can contact him. I think personally I have learned a lot of things in this conversation, and I thank very much Roberto for his participation to our talk.
I'm very glad that I had this opportunity, and thank you, Daisy. I was happy to get to know you today, and yes, hopefully it can be a good start to discuss together what we can do as a group of advisors who work on different aspects of counseling, especially Italian companies who enter the China market. And I agree that this should be a shared and well thought approach by the company. So the legal side, marketing, business development, IP, IT should all all people should talk to each other and be on the same page.
Yeah, many subjects will require support of a legal, and for sure we will have other opportunities to host Roberto in our speech, in our talk. So
I'll be very happy.
Thank you, and thank you also to you, Daisy. Today we have mostly listened, but I think it has been very useful also for our listener.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Roberto. Very nice meeting you too.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo.
Thank you, and see you next time.
See you.
Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.